Hello and welcome to this episode of Ways to Taste. Today I'll be showing you how to make some chocolate chip cookies. These are not regular chocolate chip cookies. I made some oat milk in the morning and I had some leftover oats from the milk, so I'll be showing you how to turn your scraps like oats. It can even be almonds, coconut, or any kind of vegetable milk scraps that you make at home and turn them into a delicious chocolate chip cookie. So let's get started. Ingredients. First of all, you'll need obviously your leftover scraps. Here I have some oats. This is about 2 cups of oats. You can definitely change the recipe depending on how much you have. So next ingredient, you'll need 1 egg. If you made more milk, you'll need 2 eggs, but for 2 cups of oats, 1 egg. And 5 tablespoons of melted butter, cinnamon, vanilla extract, chocolate chips, and then for sugar, I'm using coconut sugar, but you can definitely use normal sugar or monk fruit, any kind of sweetener that you want. Some salt, and for consistency, depending if you like a chewer cookie or a more crunchy cookie, you'll need flour and milk. I'm using the oat milk I made from this oats, but you can use any kind. And for flour, I'm using normal flour, but you can use almond flour, any kind of flour that you want. So let's get started. So the first step is to mix all of your wet ingredients into the leftover scraps. So let's add our egg. Now that we have our egg in, let's add our butter. Make sure that you let the butter cool before adding it into the mixture. And then we mix. Now that the butter and the egg are integrated, let's add our vanilla extract. I'm not measuring this, you can just add as much as you'd like, but I like a lot, so this depends on your preference. Give it a little mix, and now we are going to add our sweetener. I'm using coconut sugar. Depending on the type of sweetener that you use is the amount you'll use. So if you're using normal cane sugar, you'll probably use about half cup, depending on the amount of scraps you use. For coconut sugar, I'm using a 1/3 cup. If you're using a sweetener like monk fruit that's very, very sweet, I'd recommend a 1/4 cup or less, depending on the amount of scraps you're using. So I'm using a 1/3 cup of coconut sugar, and I'm adding the cinnamon, and now we're also adding our salt. I'm just adding 1 teaspoon because the salt just helps enhance the sweet flavors that we already have. And so we're going to mix it until we have this kind of consistency. As you can see, it's kind of still liquidy. So now, depending on the texture that you have and you want to achieve, you'll add more flour or more milk. For now, I'll have to add a little bit more flour just so it has more structure. But if you want a really chewy cookie, it's not necessary. Now that you've reached the perfect texture that you want for your cookie, mine, as you can see, has now more structure but is still a little bit gooey. You can add your chocolate chip cookies. Again, this is just by measuring how much you want. I'm adding about a cup of chocolate chip cookies. You could also add nuts or shredded coconut, any kind of topping that you want for your cookie. Make sure everything is combined. And now it is time to preheat our oven. I'm preheating mine to 315 Fahrenheit. Once you have your batter ready, I have mine here, it is time to make our dough balls. Now time to bake them. These will bake at, as I said, 315 Fahrenheit for about 10 to 15 minutes, but depending on your oven, the time may change. So you just have to watch and see if they're brown on top or if they're not quite ready yet to be taken out. You just have to kind of see, and it's a judgment call when you have to take them out. So let's put these in the oven. So our cookies are now out of the oven and they look like this. And it is time to let them cool and rest before we can serve them. We have now our cool chocolate chip cookies. These are a delicious snack or dessert that you can take anywhere you go, and they're also pretty healthy. So I hope you enjoyed them and you'll make them, and thank you for watching. I hope you'll check out all of our other videos.